man, guys, it's a new year. After all that holiday stuff, I am super pumped. This year's gonna be awesome!
A few moments later.
Seriously? How the hell did this happen?
You alright in there? Did you die or something?
Maybe? Help.
Hang on, I'll try to figure something out. Just keep yourself busy for a while.
Keep yourself busy. Fine. Well, I'm a ghost now. I could spy on people. I could scare people. Finally find out what's in the Beyond section of a Bed Bath & Beyond. Or I could play video games. That also works. Wait, actually, this game might help me. It seems similar enough. Alright guys, you're gonna have to pardon my, appearance for this one. This week we're taking a look at Murdered Soul Suspects. Oh boy. Murdered Soul Suspect is a mystery and stealth adventure game developed by Airtight Games and published by Square Enix in 2014. The story takes place in a modern-day Salem, Massachusetts, and follows a detective named Ronan O'Connor, who through a set of weird circumstances ends up having to solve his own murder before he can pass on. The events leading to his death involve him chasing down a serial killer called the Bell Killer, so his adventure to figure out just what happened to him gets tied up with trying to solve that case so he can move on into the afterlife to see his wife, Julia. In general, Murdered plays like a third-person action-adventure game, but with some specific tweaks that make it a bit more unique. Being a ghost, Ronan can move about the environment more freely than a more corporeal character, with some, notable exceptions. Yeah, while you're able to pass through walls like a ghost would be able to, the game puts limitations on areas that you can pass through. Several buildings or areas have runes on them that prevent a ghost from passing through a door, and sometimes it requires a bit of work to make someone open a door for you so you can move to the next area. It's pretty much just naked game design keeping the player on a straight path, but I guess they try to justify it at least. You don't have a map or anything to guide you, but that doesn't really matter all that much because there isn't much room to get lost. The game has 5 or 6 areas that you travel back and forth between, and it pretty much follows a linear path, so you don't have much open world experience to deter you. Gameplay can be broken down into 3 categories: exploring environments to find places and people of interest, investigating crime scenes and putting together clues, and hiding from Reaper-like demons to avoid getting dragged to hell or something. There's some other gameplay set pieces thrown in for good measure, like possessing a cat to help traverse the environment, or distracting police officers to help Joy sneak past them, but they're relatively minor compared to the rest. Kitty, kitty, kitty. Kitty, kitty, kitty. Besides the main story, you have 4 side quests that you need to complete. These do not take very long to finish, and they don't add anything to the main story, but they do offer some variety and a chance to go off the very narrow and set path provided by the game. Some of these stories are interesting in and of themselves, making it a wonder that there aren't more of them in the game. Especially given how relatively bare bones the rest of the experience seems, it feels like it's a missed opportunity to further enrich the world in its story by giving Ronan more people to meet and get to know, as he helps them find closure in death. In particular, the first side quest you come across is a much more interesting murder mystery than the main story, if only because at the end you still can't believe what has happened and want to know more about it. The game also offers other side story opportunities in the form of collectibles in each area, which if you get them all, you get a journal entry explaining the different ghost stories for each of the areas that you find the collectibles in. But given the amount of hunting and searching that you have to do to find them all, it's really not worth it. The fuck is that?
Hey,
Ah! How'd you do that?
you know, ghost stuff. You'll get there. So anyway, you look like a detective. Maybe you could help me out.
Sure, I guess. My story isn't really going anywhere right now anyway. What do you need?
So I'm just trying to figure out what happened to me. I was out sledding with my friend Casper. I lost track of him, and then next thing I know, I ended up here. Don't really know what happened to me.
Sounds like a job for the Spectral Victims Unit.
Really?
Ace Detective.
Investigation is the most open-ended section of the gameplay, where the player has several different tactics to use in order to find information or get clues from witnesses and suspects. You can possess people to read their thoughts, have them interact with other people in your stead, or interact with the physical environment in a way you can't since you're a ghost. For the most part, although you do have choices, most of the time only one choice is the correct one, so despite the fact that you have options at times, more often than not it doesn't really matter. Previously on Spectral Victims Unit. Alright guys, we got two different cases here. It's a huge mess, but I've got a hunch. I think all these things are connected, but the evidence is just leading us in circles. If only we had something to, I don't know, bring it all together.
Well, yeah, sure, but what?
Well, you could get a spiritual medium, like a consultant or something.
Nah, that'll never work. What do you think, special guest Ice T? Great idea.
Ace Detective.
Celebrity cameos. How do we afford him anyways?
It was on sale. The last part of the gameplay is the stealth sections, where you have to sneak past demons in order to progress or escape. You can choose to sneak up on them to kill them, but you cannot fight them head on, they will automatically kill you. You hide in these random pockets of spectral energy, or instead you can possess a person to hide in. Once you figure out the movement patterns of the demons, it ends up being really easy to avoid them or even beat them. The game has no difficulty settings, you can't make it any more difficult, and overall it feels rather easy to beat. I only died twice in the entire game. The first time was when I was first learning how to avoid the demons, and the second was in a very early attempt to kill one. To kill a demon, you sneak up behind them, hit them, and then you have a few seconds to hit a button prompt, and they might kill you if you hit the wrong one. Some areas make it rather easy to avoid them, while others might require a more offensive tactic to get around them. Expecto Patronum, bitch! I found it odd that some areas had the spectral energy, which is usually an indication that you're going to have to fight or escape from demons. But there was one part of the game in particular that just, they never ended up spawning there. I don't know if it's because of the scripting of the game, if it was cut from the game, or just a bug, but I found it weird that they would have that there, and then you never end up fighting anything there. Seriously? What the hell? Okay, I guess this means we're gonna be fighting demons at some point. Good to know.
2 hours later.
Oh. Okay, I guess we're not fighting demons. Seriously? Really? No? Not fighting them? Alright, okay, sure. The story starts off pretty strong as we get to know Ronan and just what it is he has to do in order to pass on and be with his wife. Some of the characters that he interacts with are pretty interesting, the main highlight being Joy, the daughter of a medium whose ability to commune with ghosts ends up getting her mixed up in Ronan's investigation. I don't want to spoil too much here, since there's definitely some interactions and revelations worth seeing for yourself. However, I can't help but mention that I saw the story's main twist coming from very far away. The story does its best to keep you guessing here and there with some pretty laughable misdirection.
Your bike was stolen by that no-good neighborhood bully and thief, Red Herring.
But I can't say I was fooled. If your murder mystery only has a handful of prominent characters, then it's not going to take too long for a process of elimination to lead to the right conclusion. Again, the game's limited scope does it no favors. I know it sounds like I've been giving this game a hard time so far, but there definitely are some parts of it that I enjoyed. The world and characters are nicely designed, which is probably part of why it isn't very big. It's easier to make smaller spaces look pretty. The characters themselves look pretty impressive. It's kind of hard to tell if the developers captured actual actors or not, but the end result looked good. The game makes repeated use of a visual trick that was particularly effective, where the ghost of the past Salem is superimposed over the current day environment in a way that's really striking. The game also makes good use of the stark contrast with the muted colors of the ghost world you're exploring and the bright orange demons that are coming after you. Like I mentioned before, some of the side stories are interesting, which left me wanting more of them. The voice acting is solid. The majority of the cast aren't super well-known voice actors, with the exception of Travis Willingham as Rex, but he really isn't in the story that much. But they do an excellent job. In particular, Joy could have been a really grating character with the typical rebellious teenager voice, but Cassidy Lerman's performance is really well done, and I hope she does more in the future.
People who see things nobody else can see end up living here.
Not that crazy. Come on.
Okay, I'll help you get inside, but...
But what? Look, if we're gonna ask this girl Iris about this contract, the asking needs to be done by a living person, right?
Just remember who opens the door for you, tough guy.
Yeah.
Ronan is the typical video game protagonist, the rebel with a heart of gold trying to make up for the mistakes of his past. He's basically what you would expect for this kind of story. Overall, although the game is pretty to look at, it's a bit of a disappointment. It has several elements to it that, if expanded upon, could have made it a much better game than it actually was. It felt stripped down and bare bones, and it feels as if the developers were pressed for time or something, because there are times when I feel like the game is incomplete. It feels like a very long demo more than an actual game, with the main story being 6 to 8 hours, and collecting all the items and doing side missions only adds an hour or two at most. The story and characters are interesting enough, but again, if there was more content, it would be a much more compelling game. It's not a game that I would have recommended at its original full retail price, but it's been a while now since it's been out, and the price has been greatly reduced, or you could just go and rent it. Murdered Soul Suspect seems like a game that could have been a strong start to a series, since a lot of its ideas are solid and could be expanded on into a more complete game. It's a shame we'll probably never see another one, though, because the studio that made it was closed just after the game's release. So, Murdered Soul Suspect, I'm not mad at you, but I am disappointed. This case is going nowhere! Ugh!
I think I've got it. Check it out.
Are you sure about this? I don't really like the sound of that.
I've tried everything else. I don't think we have a choice.
Alright, be careful.
Okay, have a seat. Well, let's give it a shot. What do we got here? Akum Ra, Akum Day, Mum Ra, Exodia, Dumbledore, Obelisk Ra, Slifer, Mecha, hi, no, that's, Abracadabra, help, please?
Oh, rigor mortis, oh god, oh. It worked!
Yes.
And with no negative consequences!
But wait a minute, what's that?
Pay no attention to the cat floating above your kitchen table.